The global ecological crisis that we find ourselves in today presents not only one of the biggest threats to the human family, but also to all life on Earth. The ecological crisis is made up of a wide assortment of interconnected problems, ranging from climate change to biodiversity loss, from resource depletion to air pollution, from soil degradation to plastic pollution, plus many more. All these crises each pose significant challenges to the global family, not only in their complexity, but also in scale. Faced with this global and urgent threat, many believe that we can engineer our way out of this crisis. After all, technology and the Industrial Revolution got us into this mess, therefore technology and human ingenuity can get us out of it. But trying to solve the ecological crisis by developing new technical solutions can only treat the symptoms, not the cause. For the crisis we now face, given its complexity and interconnectedness, demands a new approach if we're to treat its roots. This requires a new way of seeing, thinking, and acting. The Catholic Church calls this integral ecology, and this approach offers a profound insight into how we can tackle the ecological crisis in an integrated way. When we view the crisis through the lens of integral ecology, rather than seeing each discrete problem in isolation, we begin to see that everything is deeply interconnected. This integrated view reveals a deeper insight. Not only are the ecological problems interconnected, but there is also an interconnection between the ecological crisis and the human crisis. For the human crisis, just like the ecological one, is made up of a wide range of issues affecting the human family, from extreme poverty to social inequality, from modern slavery to human trafficking, from poor working conditions to mass migration, and many more. Through the lens of integral ecology, we can see that we are faced not with two separate crises, one environmental and the other social, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both human and environmental. Or, to put it another way, the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor are the same cry. Everything is interconnected. The insatiable desire for economic growth drives the production and market for ever cheaper consumer goods, which drives the depletion of Earth's natural resources and is also a driver for cheap labor, which drives poor working conditions, which drives weak environmental standards, which drives pollution, which drives greenhouse emissions, which drives climate change. All of these issues are interconnected, and each problem cannot be solved without tackling the others. Integral ecology shows us that the ecological crisis is not simply a series of problems to be fixed, but rather is a symptom of something that goes much deeper. Because at the heart of the ecological crisis lies a deep human and spiritual crisis, in that we have forgotten who we are and where we have come from. Nature is not something separate from ourselves or a mere setting in which we live, but rather we are part of nature, included in it and in constant interaction with it. We have forgotten that we ourselves are dust of the earth. Our very bodies are made up of her elements. We breathe her air and we receive life and refreshment from her waters. Just as ecology is the relationship of living organisms and their environment, we cannot regard ourselves as separate or disconnected with the ecosystems in which we live. Just as the Earth's ecosystems have worked harmoniously for millions of years, we too are part of a complex network of interconnected relationships that we may never fully comprehend or understand. When we forget where we belong, we behave as lords and masters over creation, entitled to plunder her at will. Creation is viewed simply as an object to exploit. And that same mindset of domination is how we treat each other. When we view reality through the lens of integral ecology, we can see how all creation is a web of life that includes human and social dimensions. By understanding where we belong and our interconnectedness within the ecosystems that sustain us, we will no longer see God's creation as an object there simply to serve our needs, but rather we come to a deeper understanding of our interdependence and our place of belonging within the delicate web of life. And by doing so, we can start to care for each other as well as the earth, our common home. And given the urgency of our current situation, this new way of thinking and acting is needed now more than ever.
Welcome to the Economy of Francesco mapping. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the ecology of Francesco practitioners. And this is my perspective, but I hope to invite all of you to see yourselves as part of this beautiful Economy of Francesco that Pope Francis has invited us to. In particular, I think it involves the popular movements, community organizing, energy, environment, care for creation, integral ecology practitioners like the Global Catholic Climate Covenant and movement, Laudato Si animators, and the action platform that's emerging that we're going to be inviting you to, especially this month in November. And of course, all those accompanying the poor and those on the margins, from Catholic worker houses to Catholic charities. I believe protagonists of the transformation, as Pope Francis says, will come from those that are accompanying, that are those most excluded from our conventional structures. And then, of course, all of our big Catholic institutions, from the Bishops' Conference to parishes and schools to religious orders to higher education. Pope Francis has invited all young economists, entrepreneurs, and change makers to see their institutions as workshops of hope. And in particular, those who might be involved in worker organizing, worker dignity, those creating co-ops. And I want to share with you just a little bit about some of the co-ops that have emerged. One is the Community Purchasing Alliance in Washington, D.C., $13 million has shifted to Black and Latino-owned businesses over the past couple of years because of the work of the Community Purchasing Alliance. Here's a picture of the annual meeting just last year. And part of my involvement in the Community Purchasing Alliance has been helping raise capital for other cooperatives, employee-owned business, and the incredible movements for racial and gender equity and justice, social movements, shareholder activism. That has caused a lot of change in investing. For co-op investing, it involves going to cooperative loan funds like the Local Enterprise Assistance Fund in Boston, or Quechua Impact Fund, or the Equitable Economy Fund that's just emerged to help startup co-ops. All of this is part of a bigger ecology, and I think it's also in this ecology to recognize the pressures that are putting on business, from ecological considerations. I think economics is being embedded in a larger ecological frame, thanks to Donut Economics and Kate Rayworth. And that's just because of the simple climate reality that we emit 35 gigatons a year as a planet. We only have 225 gigatons left until runaway climate change. And 2,000 gigatons are baked into the balance sheets. These are the proven oil reserves that Exxon and others are already going to produce, and that's what's embedded in their share price. And that's why finance, big business, and private equity, people are reckoning with the challenges of having capital supremacy as our core corporate structure. I think social movements are also kind of putting pressure on this corporate structure. And that's why we believe alternatives are needed. What does multi-stakeholder governance and ownership look like? That, to me, is the opportunity the Francesco economy offers us. In particular, we're mobilizing capital asset holders that are inspired by Catholic social teaching. And we're gathering Catholic institutions, new economy practitioners, different ideas in economics. Like I was saying, Donut Economics, Kate Rayworth has welcomed us into new conceptions of this. So all of you, whether you're in organizing, whether you care about workers, whether you are a worker, whether you're on the periphery, we invite you to consider yourself a protagonist of this economy of Francesco.